Moses Itauma dispatches of a previously never stopped Jermaine Franklin, and that includes 12 very good rounds with Anthony Joshua, where he bloodied Joshua's nose, gave Joshua some fits, landed some good shots, but Moses Itauma blows Jermaine Franklin out, the American, in 5 completely one-sided controlled rounds by Itauma. I gotta rear up the engine. Choo-choo! I am the United States chapter captain of the Moses Itauma bandwagon. I can't say I'm the captain of the bandwagon because I'm sure that bandwagon has been ridiculously full by United Kingdom pundits and experts alike for probably going back to him as an amateur to whoever got to see him. Because me going back and watching him in his amateur days, I'm impressed. But Moses Itauma is the truth. And I told you, he makes me want to drop the S's off my he's. I said, he cold. He cold, Raheem. He cold. The boy is cold. The boy is smooth. The boy is good. I'm sorry. I don't mean to call him a boy, by the way. I don't. You get it, but you get the syntax. Is that the right word, Raheem? Why I'm saying that. He is the man is a bad motherfucker. He is the future, and I've copyrighted it. Moses Itauma versus Joseph Awignonya Jr. will be the fight of the 2030s in the heavyweight division. Okay. Anyways, back to Moses Itauma. Man, he does the Usykian feints. He even has a little bit of Shakur Stevenson to his game with his base. He could do a little step back. He never. Anyway, what I'm saying is, the guy has some of the fluidity of like a welterweight and the hand speed of a welterweight or a lightweight, but has tremendous heavyweight power. I think he probably has the best hand speed. It's him or Usyk, but he's 21 and Usyk is almost 40. So I suspect he has the fastest hands. I think I had the audio off when I'm watching in the arena for Fundora. Brendan, shout out to the Untouchable True School Sports, a Wu-Tang affiliate of ours. He is really he's a Wu-Tang Clan member, okay? But I'm
a Wu-Tang Clan member.
Yeah, we are. No, of course.
Friend of the show.
Yeah. That's my brother,
school,
man.
But still new school.
I'm just
Wu-Tang's old school.
right. But that's my guy. He said that Jermaine Franklin was in the corner after the 3rd round going, the speed, okay, and all that. So he feinted, he picked the body, which set up things up top. He mixed up his punch selection. He had good reflexes. He has a great step back game, and that's what I'm talking about with Shakur. That sense of distance and knowing when to take the step back and then reset your positioning without needing a whole bunch of movement and circling around and lateral movement. Just to keep you at the end and then step back and reset like Shakur was doing to Teofimo. It's against Jermaine Franklin. I hear you. He's got 14 fights. I hear you. He hasn't even went anywhere close to 10 rounds yet. I hear you. Hasn't even really been hit yet. I hear you. But I know what the fuck I see, Raheem. I see the next true heavyweight champion, with or without getting a Usyk opportunity at some point. And yeah, he's wet behind the ears still for an Oleksandr Usyk fight. I still think he might be able to beat Oleksandr Usyk. That's how good he looked. I think he beats Kabiel. I think he could beat the winner of Wardley Dubois, which I do think is going to be Wardley, but they can't fight each other because they got the same trainer. Now that I'm being, maybe overzealous and selling him to the high heavens, go ahead and bring us back down to earth, Raheem. Are you there with me?
I have that level of excitement around what you're seeing in the building of a potential future of the heavyweight division. The excitement that you feel around Itauma, I feel around the path he has been put on to acquire these accolades so early. He has the exact right fights. Granted, there's only 14 of them. On the big cards, now main event headlining the cards at the right time. Dillian Whyte was a master stroke in that Dillian, not unlike what we were just looking at from a Fedora and Thurman, right? You're coming in with a guy who has done a lot, who has a big name, who will sell tickets off the back of that name, who is thought to be a potential test for you, but we kind of know in the back of our mind isn't. I don't want to go so far as to say wash because that is disrespectful, but isn't up to the task maybe that he once might have been up to, and then you dispatch him unceremoniously. You look great doing it. You get that name on your record. You get that name on your resume. And then you come in with a Jermaine Franklin, who had bloodied Joshua's nose, who once, was a very viable contender and a potential threat to the big boys in the heavyweight division. Never really crossed the Rubicon there, never really got to the finish line with it, but is certainly, if not gatekeeper, he is potentially, before the fight anyway, someone who can derail these plans. Even if he doesn't win the fight, if he beats up Itauma, if he busts Itauma's nose up, if he shows us some cracks in Itauma's offense or defense on the way to losing even, we will see and be able to glean more from what that potential really means. And so the way that the 5 rounds went couldn't, and I'll quote Itauma now, have gone better. He did get hit a couple of times, and Jermaine Franklin has a punch. He wasn't tested in the chin like, these weren't massive shots. It wasn't like he was buzzed, but he was hit by a puncher. He didn't just go in there and destroy a guy inside of 3 or 5 minutes. He went 5 rounds. The knockout was beautiful. I mean, an uppercut is my favorite kind of knockout. Now, granted, he followed it up with a shot. And let me just say that if you had the Ali mentality, if you had that showmanship quality of the Ali, you let the uppercut stand. You just go back like this and let Jermaine Franklin hit the canvas. Like, I mean to tell you, when the uppercut happened and I saw this from Franklin, I said out loud, "Don't hit him." That would have been a highlight that would follow Itauma through the rest of his career all the way to the end of his days. Because if he would have just let Franklin fall after that knockout, after that uppercut, and been here watching, bro, though that is what photos like Ali over Liston are made of. But he's got killer instinct. He had no mercy. He saw a defensive fighter who wasn't on the canvas yet, and he took that second shot. I get it. That's instinct. Oh boy, I was hoping he would be savvy enough to just let Franklin fall. That was a side mission. The last thing I want to say about his potential, at least in the first portion of our discussion, is that we don't know, man. We see great talent. We see him doing things that heavyweights don't do. Certainly 14 fights in at 20 years old. I understand the excitement, and we in boxing always get so excited when we see something like this coming down the trail. But dare I say, while Wardley sits as one quarter of the heavyweight championship, Usyk is still very much in the game. Dubois is a former world champion challenging to reclaim championship status. Ajit Kabial is waiting in the wings for somebody to give him a shot and has been waiting for much too long. There are still many names in this division that are also defining themselves, that are further down the path than Moses Itauma. And while he may be the future, we're not talking distant future. These are still his contemporaries. These are the guys he's going to have to beat to one day become world champion. These are the fighters who are right now carving out their own place in history, and none of them, Ajit, Wardley, Dubois, certainly not Usyk, even Tyson Fury, who thinks he would be stupid to face Itauma, his name still rings out. We'll see what happens on the 11th. These fighters are still further down the road than Itauma, have a claim to being the future of the heavyweight division, will be more seasoned when he gets to them, and could any one of them potentially be the dark horse, if you want to call him that actually is the future of the heavyweight division. I'm not prepared to bestow that on Itauma yet, and I think he'll appreciate this. I think there's too much gushing, there's too much expectation, and there's too much entitlement. Like, the heavyweight division is slammed with talent. This ain't the Klitschko era. These guys are here to fight. They're all young. They're not 20, but they're young. They're his contemporaries. And until and unless he actually beats them, when he gets around to even facing them, who knows what they'll look like at that point, how much better they'll be then than they are now. I'm not ready to just put the crown on the young king. I need to see him in the battle. And that, to me, is why I'm more excited about what the division is doing and what Queensberry, to be fair, is doing, building these heavyweights, creating these opportunities. And you want to talk about eating what you kill and finding, your own independent road in the Turkey Al-Sheikh era. You got to give it to Queensberry in the heavyweight division. Without them, without that stable, without them guiding these fighters into these matchups, we don't see a sexy division like this. We don't see the potential the next 2 years of maybe the best heavyweight fights we could possibly ask for, back to back to back. That's what we're looking at. And while Itauma has the best potential in the eyeball test, I'd say he's the furthest back in the line.
Yeah.
When it comes to being crowned the king of the division. He's going to have to unseat a different king than Usyk probably to get there. One of these other guys will find their way to the throne potentially before Itauma even has a shot. So let's everybody keep our powder dry, appreciate what we're looking at, but make him prove what we're looking at can withstand the kind of pressure that's coming.
Let me tell you something, Raheem. Let's take a second think back, okay? 1985. You were there, right? You still look good. You don't look like you were necessarily there in 1985, but you were, all right? In 1985.
Okay. Maybe I was born. Maybe I was 27. We don't know. Because I am the Alpha and the Omega. I am timeless. Yeah, 85. Who knows what radio was doing in them days?
I got more lines in my skin than you do, all right? So, all right?
But something you got more bars.
Yeah, so 1985, Pinklin Thomas was further down the road than Mike Tyson. Tony Tucker and his Jerry curl were further down the road than Mike Tyson. How'd that end? So you get.
Where was Lennox Lewis?
Huh?
Where was Holyfield?
They were Holyfield was a cruiserweight, and Lennox Lewis was still in finishing school in the Olympics, right? All right, yeah. But the point is, I'm saying Fabio Wardley and Agit Kabayel, they're Tony Tucker and Pinklin Thomas. They're good. They're good. They're not the guys from the Klitschko eras. I fuck with Pinklin Thomas, right? Tony Tucker took Tyson the distance, made him look human for the first time, losing his IBF belt to him in '87, I believe. But Tyson was coming in '85. And in 2026, Moses Itauma is coming. And let me quickly ask you this to make another point. You said Fury said he thought better of fighting this young bull. Is that you're making that aware to me for the first time? What did he say exactly, Raheem?
He was in a gaggle of reporters, and they were throwing names out at who he might fight. And somebody said, Itauma? He's like, what am I, stupid? What, do I look stupid? And they laughed about it, but he meant it. Derek Chisora said the same when he was asked about number 50. You want to take on Itauma? He's like, I'm not quoting exactly, but essentially he was like, no, fuck that. I think that is a quote, actually. Fuck that. And then he said when Dylan White got the fight, Dylan asked Dylan White about that fight. Dylan White said he might actually kill Derek. Like, Derek might actually die.
Okay,
which is funny. If you see the clip, you'll see why it's funny, It's hilarious. So yeah, the vets see this guy as the boogeyman. They see him the same way. Yes, I get it. I'm not gonna go on. I'm not prepared.
Okay, so
go on.
They say that because they know what they're looking at, right?
Yeah.
You know who else has said he's not going to fight him before it's all said and done? The great Oleksandr Usyk, the pound-for-pound king and heavyweight champion of the world, undisputed by real intents and purposes. Oleksandr Usyk, who I'm not saying wouldn't necessarily beat Itauma, but I said on this show after White, I said if you could give me one fight left in Usyk's career, it's Itauma, right? And then Max Kellerman piggybacked off it months later, but I said it first, right? Anyways, I know I'm sorry. I don't mean to self-indulge. Is Itauma ready for that fight from an experience standpoint? No, right? Has he really been seasoned and groomed for that level of assignment of an all-time great fighter in Oleksandr Usyk? No. But it's not just the talent, Raheem. It's the technical acumen to go with the tremendous talent of hand speed, power, dexterity, balance, okay? Let's take it to the fight now, okay? And I'm saying Usyk, he threw cold water on that. He got out in front of it because he sees the same thing these other guys see. That he's fighting,
Okay, we will go to the fight, but let me just...
Yeah.
And the same thing I see. The only thing is, in my boxing world, there is no entitlement. There is only what you've done.
Prove.
Everything else is a pipe dream until. Right. I am not prepared to call Dubois and Wardley or Cabial, Tony Tucker, or
Pinklin Thomas.
What?
And Pinklin Thomas.
Or Pinklin Thomas. Maybe Usyk, maybe he sees the Tyson and, oh my God, Larry Holmes. Maybe Usyk sees Tyson and Larry Holmes and says, I want none of that. But the reason he gave, and I know we'll go scoff, but the reason he gave is like, I don't want to break this kid too early. He sees what we see, but he sees in himself someone who would derail that and hurt him before he's grown into this potential that we all expect, and he doesn't want to break down a fighter with 14 fights too early and take away that potential. I mean, I enjoy watching history unfold. I have seen too many potentials go by the wayside, too many dark horses claim the crown, too many, God forbid, injuries derail somebody's trajectory, too many, God forbid, and I don't see this at all from Itauma, but I've been blindsided before, people's mentality or the stress of life break them down psychologically and take them off their path. There are a lot more challenges to a fighter than the opponent even. There's your own body, your own life, your own focus, so many things that you can't plan for. And then other guys have plans for their future and get better, get seasoned while you're getting attention. All of these things have to be put in the mix, and that makes for a great future of boxing. And we will see who is the future of the heavyweight division. But we don't know. We don't know. And the way this table has been set by Queensberry, and you have to be honest, this Riyadh season era for the heavyweight division is chef's kiss. But Itauma's going to have to eat everything on his plate. I'm not just about to give him the crown. That's all I'm saying.
Once upon a time, though, until boxing really got strung out over the decades of prolonged careers and nutrition, allowed fighters to hold on to their prime seemingly longer than what was once the case when fighters would get old routinely, well into their 30s. the story of young overtaking old was the norm, right? And Cassius Clay was on paper not actually ready to fight Sonny Liston. And Sonny Liston was the feared, respected champion, and he took him out. Riddick Bowe had a lot more fights than Moses Itauma, but Evander Holyfield was the undisputed cruiserweight champ, the undisputed heavyweight champ, disposed of Douglas fresh off a Tyson win in 4 rounds, beat a still very formidable and would go on to become the heavyweight champion George Foreman. On paper, the much more decorated fighter than Riddick Bowe, but the younger man overtook the older man. And that, especially in the heavyweight division, this used to be what happened. So I even without all that seasoning, I think Itauma may even stand the best chance. Kabiel's interesting. Kabiel's very interesting for Itauma. Very interesting. And Warren, maybe too interesting for Frank Warren, to your point. Maybe I could talk all that shit, but when you're really putting this asset that you really feel is definitely going to be the future of the division, but too risky for his taste, right? Putting him in right now with a Kabiel, someone like that, I suspect, from my boxing eyes, he is the biggest threat to Usyk. I suspect he could beat the winner of Dubois Wardley. I'd favor him to. I'd favor him over everybody but Usyk right now. That's how good he is. Kabiel got dropped by Zhang, a southpaw who does not bring everything to the table, sans experience, and maybe some grown man maturity, intellect, and strength even, because Itauma's still shedding some baby fat. His body is still coming along and getting more defined as he goes on. He was a chubby amateur. But I suspect Kabiel just coming forward, being right in front of him, even with all that body work, and he's a very, very good fighter who's red hot in the division. I think he'd knock Agi Kabiel out. So but to your point, that would be him being entitled. He has to prove it. But the clock is ticking on Usyk's career, admittedly by the champion himself. So I would like to see if Young can beat old. Great, like was once the story in the heavyweight division, plenty of times before. And then let your boy get to the X's and O's, which speak to what I'm saying is it's not just some raw talent. He, like Tyson when he was young, he has a system. He has a system already. He has a technical foundation that has been drilled into him. Go ahead.
I want to see all of those things happen in real time.
Tyson was also fighting 15 times in 1 year. But yeah.
I like watching him evolve outside the ring. Early days, he was a fighter who I think maybe because so many people were talking about him in such high regard before he had done anything, that was annoyed by the press. That was annoyed, and rightly so, which I think reveals a good character, that everybody just bestowing this crown upon him and assuming that he's going to beat everybody and he should talk like that and trying to bait him into saying things that will certainly irritate the other champions in the division and his contemporaries by being, over his skis a bit. He was resisting that. He can see the media spin and was starting to kind of go into his shell like, I don't do interviews, I don't want to talk to anybody, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. And that, to me, is the wrong approach. But in the build-up to this fight, we got to see more personality. I think he leaned into the press while still not taking the bait to big himself up and start trash-talking ahead of the fight or disrespecting Franklin or calling out fighters who are not even in his sights yet. Like, he navigated it well. He showed personality. He's affable. He's a likable guy. At the post-fight press conference when he could have easily quoted. He could have gloated or, trashed Franklin or, used profanity or had shown in his moment of shine something that isn't as palatable. I saw some glimmering of a Anthony Joshua-esque ability to play with the press and to be a very likable potential future ambassador to the sport even. I'm watching all sides of his development. And in the same way that what you see in the ring is something phenomenal and something that you can see ruling the day, it requires a lot outside of the ring in the way of focus, in the way of attitude, in the way of, I would say, even building your fan base and being the kind of guy that people want to see win. And then managing all of the money coming in, the media requirements, the family, the friends, the travel, the distractions, the girls, everything that comes along with the kind of potential that he is and the kind of spotlight that he's in, the kind of moments that are awaiting him, all of that has to be navigated. And who knows what are the demons inside him that have to be fought. So watching him develop as a young man, navigate this very tricky system and growing up in the spotlight while being excellent in the ring, all of it for me is something to pay attention to. And he's doing great on every spot. And so part of him developing into the potential next king of the heavyweight division is keeping all of that in the air as you juggle through this very tricky path to the throne. None of it can we take for granted. Every bit of it has to be dealt with properly. And you talk about Tyson, and we can see what happens when you let just one or two balls drop along the way. It doesn't become evident immediately, but boy, when you recognize what was missed, it becomes the biggest problem and sometimes insurmountable.
I love what you're doing and respect what you're doing here, Raheem, and it's because you got one reporter and me trying to catch a rep off riding his wave. You know what I mean? You got one guy trying to cash in some credit and credibility for himself off the work that is supposed to be done going forward by another man, right? And you got another more mature, seasoned, grown man in Raheem saying, I'm going to give you what's healthy for you. Sean's giving you all this candy and all this dessert. I'm going to give you your vegetables and remind you haven't proven jack shit just yet. Other than pass the eye test with flying colors, which I think you're definitely conceding he is, which the veterans in his division are conceding he is, right? But you're giving him what's healthy for him, right? And I'm trying to ride that wave. So I'm happy we have both both perspectives here. But,
can I give you one example of what I mean, and then we would definitely get to the X's and O's.
Yeah.
I won't interject anything else. The reason, let's remember, this fight happened on March 28th and not before, was because Itauma had to postpone the fight based on injury, right? But as he tells the story, he was not initially willing to go to the hospital at the insistence of Frank Warren. As soon as he told Frank, something's wrong, something's happening to my arm, Frank said, we'll go to the hospital, get it checked out. Did he do that? No. Just going to fight through it. We're just going to, no problem, right? He aggravates the injury. If I'm not mistaken, it was a bicep tear. He aggravates the injury, and then because now the pain is debilitating, again, Frank insists, go to the hospital, get it checked out. I'm not putting the fight on if you don't get a doctor's analysis. He, as a young potential champion, as a young, hungry fighter, feeling the pressures of being on the top of the Magnificent Seven card, everything and everyone is talking about, wants to go into a fight, not 100%, potentially with an injury, try to train through the injury without even having a doctor analyze what's going on, and without Frank's insistence, and to be fair, his honesty about having some injury, maybe he goes into that fight and destroys his bicep. Or maybe he goes into that fight and Jermaine Franklin has success he would have otherwise not had because Itauma is only a one-armed fighter by the third or fourth round. Those kind of things are what you need to experience and learn from along the way. And ultimately, he made the right decision, but the best decision would have been to go to the doctor immediately and then let your injury recover without any further aggravation. But to me, and I know, and I don't want anyone to misunderstand, I'm not nitpicking or saying that this guy did something wrong. I'm just saying that those kind of experiences are the kind of thing that are evident of a guy maturing. He probably won't make that mistake again, and he will go immediately to get himself checked out. There's no dishonor in that, but that to me belies the amount of pressure that a fighter like him is under to make the date. Like, I'm so good that even if I have this nagging injury, I could probably still get through this fight. Those are the kind of things that you have to be experienced to understand is a poor decision. Not going out there just because you're tough, just because you can, just because you think you're good enough and you don't want to say anything. You don't want to give the doctor an opportunity to check you out. You have to do all of those kind of little things. That's the kind of little decisions that can be made that seem insignificant at the time, that inexperience, immaturity, the wrong promoter who says, oh, no, I need this fight to happen on the date. Don't worry about it, kid. Push through. You can make it. Jermaine Franklin ain't nothing. You're all of these other things. Let me get this fight on. He's fortunate to be with a promoter who put him first, who insisted that he goes to the doctor. He's mature enough to have told his promoter that there was something wrong, however, immature enough to not go immediately and aggravate the injury, then take the rest, have to get back into fighting shape for the date, have to go through all of that. And look how he came through. Great. But there's no guarantees that you come through all of that great or that you make all those decisions along the way that get you to where he's gotten. This is the kind of thing I'm talking about. These are the kind of decisions and circumstances that along the road a fighter will be faced with. And we won't know until we know how they handle them. Nothing is a given.
No.
And it gets tougher and tougher.
No. I remember Adrian Broner being top 5 pound for pound after beating Antonio DeMarco, and we thought maybe he could beat Floyd Mayweather. And I remember a lot of guys like that, talent, eye test, wow, and then fizzled. Didn't live up to the mark. So he wouldn't be the first, and he wouldn't be the last either. And good on Frank Warren, the OG Frank Warren. It's kind of people you need around you to have success. Frank had Lennox, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So
yeah.
So anyways, now I will start with one technical nitpick before getting to all the praise I'm continuing to do. He came out to some British rapper, not a British rapper. I thought coming out to Styles P, Good Times, the I get high on your memories, I get high every day. I was like, yo, son, you wasn't even born when that dropped. Like, yeah, all right, let's go, right? I'm like, yo, this is your Larry Holmes, at least for a number of fights. Ain't no stopping us now. Like, this needs to be the thing because, the kid's cold. Like, back to what I was saying at the top, he's cold, man. Half Slovakian, got a little bit of that cold Eastern European blood. Father Nigerian, so he's got the athleticism of a brother. That's a lethal mix. It's a lethal mix. I don't mean to do positive stereotypes, but I kind of just did. But it's okay. All right. Anyways, and then you come out to some British rapper. Boo! Stick to the Styles piece, son. So now, all right, we move on now to the actual, just as important stuff in the ring. I love the feints and I love the balance. I love the punch selection. When he got the first knock, and he right away, I'm watching tape the night before the fight, and I'm like, gotta pick the body with the straight left hand. Franklin's a fluid guy in today's heavyweight division. He's got a little bit of motion up top. You gotta pick the body to make him think about that. And I knew the shot for him would be the straight left hand. And then he mixed in a couple right hooks to the body that I know got Franklin's attention and slowed him down. Got to make him cognizant of that fleshy midsection Franklin carries, or else you're not going to get him up top. He is a crafty, savvy guy who's a little slippery in there. And that's why Joshua had to go the distance with him, right? So he did that. And you got to stay with the feints. And you can't forget about your jab. And that takes a level of technical maturity for a guy at his age to do all of those things, and that impresses me about him. And he did that. He didn't forget about his jab. He didn't forget. And then to set up the knockdown, feint, 2-3, gets the knockdown. And I don't know if the 2-3 lands without putting water in that basement, as Teddy would say, and baiting out his defensive maneuver prematurely with the feint. Then once Franklin starts getting pinned on the ropes, the ability to keep him pinned on the ropes, not overextend, not leave yourself open, but not get settled into what Franklin wants you to do. And that's let him survive the 10 rounds. It's a fine line that takes a level of technical maturity to walk that. I'm not going to get overzealous and get clipped with shots that are going to make me look bad, but I'm not going to be content to not get my fucking highlight reel knockout. I'm getting it. I'm just going to stay smart and switched on enough to at some point get it. That's walking a very good fine line for the 21-year-old. And he did that. And the position, I'm not going to let you off these ropes. Okay, and he did that well. That's good ring generalship. So he eventually does that, hurts him with a straight left hand. Franklin tries to come off the ropes, thinks of doing something in return because he knows the hand speed can overwhelm him if he allows Itauma to just start taking combinations, teeing off. That can cause a referee stoppage or just send him to the canvas. Tries to come off the ropes to do something, and also his legs are all over the place. And then, boom, the punch selection, the power to drop him with the left uppercut. Chef's kiss. And I think he fought a lesser version of Franklin these days that fought Joshua, to be fair to Joshua too. But an A+.
The speed, the punch selection, those were the two markers for me. When you combine those two things, you'll have your opponent in the corner talking about how fast you are and how overwhelmed he is. A fighter like Jermaine Franklin, who is anything but a walkover, who ain't no punk, who is seasoned and a good fighter, knows what he's doing in there, also knows what he's up against when he's in there with you. I thought that was the greatest testament to Itauma's performance, was what you're hearing in the corner of Franklin. The fact that the uppercut is what finished the fight in close with just the perfect punch for the position he was in. Mm-hmm. And then had the distance to follow up with the knockout ultimate shot to put him down, which wasn't needed, as I have already explained. But that level of calm and certainty about what you need to do when. And then, of course, the ability to execute exactly that is what puts him ahead of what we are accustomed to seeing, certainly from a heavyweight. And why people are so excited, and why a fight like that was still entertaining. Because it is watching the execution and being impressed with the decision-making in real time as to what to do. He wasn't, not a single unnecessary punch, not a wasted motion. And that's what you said, I believe. I don't know if we were on the show or on the phone, but I remember you saying you're seeing him do things like Shakur Stevenson, who you might do at the heavyweight level. Mm-hmm. Well, that's what we're talking about. That's what you mean. That's exceptional, for sure. And when you see a fighter entertain you in a fight that is that one-sided, or is a pleasure to watch, even when nothing extraordinary is happening other than the execution of the game plan, you know you're dealing with someone who has a natural affinity for the sport. I think, some of us are just born with certain talents. There's a natural talent there.
Right.
But then the acumen has been honed. The work has been put in the gym. The mentality is correct. The seriousness of the moment is upon him. And when there was no wasted nothing, there was no showboating, there was no extra nothing. And he went in there and did the business in a way that is undeniable. That's what I like to see. That I prefer that to licking your tongue out or talking to the commentators or waving at the fans or blowing a kiss at your girl. I'll take that even over the proper walkout music, which I must put myself in league with your initial comments. Keep it American hip hop, bro.